Good evening and welcome to the Passionate Professional series. My name is Tony Kukoyi and I'll be the host of today's episode. The Passionate Professional series is an offshoot of the Passion and Purpose of, which is a channel on YouTube that shares useful knowledge that helps us maximize our passions and our purpose. So we don't just enjoy success, but also fulfill personal and our professional lives. The aim of the Passionate Professional series is to get you to see that if these people who are passionate professionals across the world are able to do this, then that means that you can do it also. Our guest for today is already in the studio, but I just want to say a massive thank you to those of you who've been joining over the past 20 episodes because you guys make the show truly worth it. And all we do with these episodes is not just a one-way conversation. We want to hear back from you. So be sure to pop in your questions, your comments, your questions during the interview as well, which is a bonus. You get to ask them questions that are burning on your mind and you get responses from them. So do not forget that. Be sure to pop in your questions, your comments, and we'll bring them up on the screen so we can address them. So just before I bring up our guest for today is already in the studio, I just want to ask a question, which is our usual tradition here. And the question for today goes this. So the question for today is this: what one skill, if you have the greatest impact on your life? What one skill, if learned properly, could have the greatest impact on your life? We know that we live in I'll call it a generation that is not just degree based nowadays for most professionals. Is beginning to shift to a skill based economy. Separates people at job interviews where they hire people is the extra skills that they've gathered for themselves. And we know that we also live in the area where a lot of people's jobs might be at risk because machines are able to do the jobs. But what separates us from machines is the emotions that we have. And that's why our skills, our soft skills are very important. So some general traits or generic traits that are not specific to any job, but these skills actually help people excel at the workplace. Examples of some of these skills include communication skills, develop soft skills, and is doing it for a specific group of people, and that is kids and youth, which many people can ignore them. They don't need to learn soft skills, but is cut the vision early because if we can impact the lives of our kids and youth, then imagine what's going to happen to our future generation. So I'm just going to go ahead and introduce our guest for today to the studio, and then we'll crack on with today's interview. Apologies for the technical hiccups. Always tends to happen when you least expect it. Oh, it seems to be loading up now. Wow. Okay. So our guest for today is no other person other than Jin Atwal. Jin or Manjinda Atwal is the founder of Magical Mind Coaching and is a mindset, confidence, and communication coach for children and young people. His purpose in life is to help ensure that all children have the same opportunities to grow into the best version of themselves. I love that. I love that phrase, best version of themselves. He believes that every child is born with a magical mind and that babies are great communicators, they are resilient, and they have a growth mindset. However, as the child begins to get older, they begin to create limiting beliefs and become self conscious about what others think of them, which can impact their mindsets, their confidence, and communication skills. Jane Atwell helps unlock the magical mind so children once again believe that there are no limits to what they can achieve. So, ladies and gentlemen, please, with a round of applause in your homes, can you join me as we welcome Jin to the stage? Hello,
Hi,
Jin.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Hello. Yeah, I can hear you. Thank you for inviting me on.
Thank you. Thank you for honoring the invitation. It's a pleasure to have you here on the Passionate Professional series. I truly believe that you are a passionate professional because what you're doing is something that many people cannot do, and you are also very passionate about it. I know you have done a lot of training in order to be able to work with children and to be able to deliver so much value to them. And I know that because I've met you and I've met you several times, I can tell that you're entirely passionate about what you do. So thank you because I'm sure people that are watching today will learn a lot from your life journey. But just before we go ahead into the questions for the day, I just want you to just, as a means of introduction, tell us about yourself. For people who are meeting you for the first time, tell us about Jin Magical Mind Coaching.
Hi, so I'm Jin Atwal. I'm based in Wolverhampton in the West Midlands, and I'm married, got two amazing daughters, and I run a social enterprise, so it's a community interest company with the purpose of helping young people grow into their best versions. I run a number of programs, so a program for primary age skills children, and a program for children on the final year of primary school and transitioning into secondary school, and those first few years in secondary school as well, where children are adapting and changing. So the two programs. So the first one, a primary school one, is called Start Wellness, and Start actually stands for stands for stretches, T stands for thankfulness and talking about what we're grateful for. A is aerobics, so really getting that heart pumping and blood moving around the body. And then R is about relaxation, so not only relaxing the body but also relaxing the mind. And then T is talking, and I teach young people how to look confident, how to feel confident, and how to learn how to have engaging conversations. So that's a primary school program. And then I also have a secondary school, like I say, last year of primary and into secondary school, which is called Best Version of Me. That's a 12-week program where young people will do an hour and a half class. And within that hour and a half class over 12 weeks, they will start off by doing some boxercise, so non-contact boxing, where they're learning how to learn the basics of boxing skills and play lots of games. And then we'll move into mindset. And I'll talk to them about having a positive mindset. I'll talk about negative habits, positive habits. Why do we have negative habits and how can we overcome those and replace them with a positive habit? I'll talk to them about things like win-win and how to think with a win-win mind. I talk to them about setting goals and prioritizing, and as well as that, they'll learn how to have conversations and everything else. So the final part of the lesson is strictly social health and social skills. So I teach them, for example, how to have a conversation. That's not really taught to young people. I teach them how to use their body language, their tone of voice, descriptive language, and to really captivate people when they're talking. And so it's all focused, and every single program that I create, it's all focused around being physically healthy, mentally healthy, and socially healthy. And the reason I believe that those three are so important is because I think that there are opportunities, and we're lucky enough to live in a country that there are opportunities around us. But sometimes we fail to see those opportunities, and that is because sometimes we may not believe in ourselves. Might not believe in ourselves, or we may not believe that we are worthy of an opportunity. And until you have a fit mind, a healthy mind, a one that believes in itself, then you won't until that point begin to see those opportunities. But when you do believe in yourself and you do believe that you're worthy, you'll begin to see those opportunities. Then it takes hard work to take something that's an idea, an opportunity, and turn it into reality. And a lot of young people these days think there's things like get rich quick schemes. There's a lot of stuff on social media about getting rich very quickly. It's very rare. If you do want to turn a dream into reality, you are always going to have to work hard. And that's where physical health comes in. Physical health is all about not just having a physical body, but take part of that, having a physical mind, but sleeping well, exercising, fueling your body with the right foods, so you have the energy to turn that dream into reality and work hard. And finally, that social health part, you'll always get to some point in your organization or some point in your business where you won't be able to turn your dreams into reality unless you bring others on board to support you. And that's sharing your vision, sharing your passion. So people believe in what you're doing as much as you believe in what you're doing yourself, and they become your followers and support you. And that's where you have to have those social skills where you're networking, you're talking to people, you're sharing your vision, you're sharing your passion. And I think once you have those three things in place and you're physically healthy, mentally healthy, and socially healthy, you can pretty much turn any dream into reality. And that's the focus of all my uh, programs. And a lot of it comes down from my own experiences. Um, so I did boxing as a young child. Uh, had a lot of stuff going on at home. So my father was an alcoholic. I witnessed a lot of domestic violence, and it made me feel weak and made me feel like I had no confidence, no self worth. And boxing was the first thing that made me feel good about myself. It helped me get physically healthier because I was, overweight at the time. But it also helped me learn discipline. It helped me let out some of the anger that I was feeling towards the world, and it put me in a good place. But there's always other parts missing, and that's why you kind of see this jigsaw. Physical health was that first part of that jigsaw that came together and helped me a lot. But it wasn't until years later that I started to pick up self-development books and read about the mind. And that was the other piece of the jigsaw, because then I became mentally healthy and I was able to let go of my past and not allow it to hold me back. And it made me feel great. I was able to forgive my father. I was able to forgive myself, and it put me in a good position. But then there was still something missing where I wasn't able to speak or share my vision. I was really shy, really quiet. And it wasn't until I worked on that final area, social health, that all the pieces of the jigsaw came together. And over the last few years, I've achieved so many things, so many dreams, grasped so many opportunities. Once those three things came together, and I knew that personally helped me, and that was the driver for my business. Because if it could help me, then I knew it could help young people, and that's why I've run my programs. I've run Best Version of Me over 10 times with approximately 20 children per class. So that's over 200 children. And I'm running my Start Wellness in primary schools right now as well. And the results are amazing. I have so many parents come over to me, and so many children themselves saying that, yeah, the program has really, really helped them. And a lot of them come for the boxing because they see the fun element. But when you speak to them afterwards, they go, we came for the boxing, but it was the mental coaching and the social coaching that we really benefited from. And naturally, we enjoy it. We enjoy learning about those things.
Oh, really interesting. And I love how I mean, I work in healthcare, but I think many times we seem to forget that health is not just the physical health that we see. There's also the mental aspects, just like you said, and there's also the social aspect of health. But there's something I'm really curious about, and that is, is on your website and is also on your bio, and that is your life purpose. And you say your life purpose is to ensure that all children have equal opportunity to become the best version of themselves. So I just wanted to ask, how did you come about this life purpose? How did you know what your life's purpose?
So I think I always knew from a young age what my life's purpose was. And when I used to see my parents arguing, and when I used to hear the domestic violence going on, I used to often, at 7 years old, sit on the bottom step of the house, and just in case things got worse, and I was running and try to help my mum as much as I could. But at the age of 7, there wasn't much I could do. But I'd always sit on that bottom step and always say the same thing over and over to myself. One day, when I get older, I will make sure no child feels the way I do right now. And I'll just repeat that over and over again while I was sitting there. And over the years, I just kind of lost that and I forgot about it. And it was always there, but I felt that I wasn't worthy. Like I said, I didn't believe in myself. I thought, who am I to help young people? What skills have I got? How can I benefit them? And it kind of got lost, and that purpose got lost for a long time. And it wasn't until my sister, she got ill. She got an autoimmune disease, and she was put in an induced coma. And I was actually sitting by her bedside reading the book The Alchemist. And as I read through that book, it kind of took me back to that moment of me sitting on that step and saying that same thing. One day when I get older, I will make sure that no child feels the way I do right now. And at that moment, I said to my sister while she was in an induced coma, I said, when you wake up, what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you. I'm going to make you proud that I'm going to fulfill my purpose, and I'm going to start helping young people, and I'm going to make sure that they become their best version, and there's nothing stopping them from becoming their best version, and they should have the same opportunities. Every child should have the opportunity to be physically, mentally, and socially healthy, and be able to achieve their dreams. And at that moment, I didn't know specifically how. Yeah, I wasn't doing public speaking at that time, so the social health part wasn't there. I knew I wanted to help them maybe physically. Boxing helped me, and the mindset part from the books that I'd read, but I didn't know how I was going to put that together. Unfortunately, a few weeks after that moment, my sister actually passed away, and I just went into a bad state where I was angry, really angry at the world, felt that life was just unfair, lost my faith, and just didn't really want to speak to anybody, and fell into a dark hole. But it wasn't. It was the mindset stuff that first helped me, because I'd got into self development before I lost my sister. I truly believe that if I hadn't got into learning about the mindset beforehand, it would have took me a long time to recover. But I knew I had to go to the basics. I went back to the basics, back to good habit forming, back to doing affirmations, back to visualization, back to journaling, and that pulled me back into a good state of mind. And it was actually the nurse that was working at the hospital where my sister was admitted. She said, "Why don't you get into running?" And I hadn't run for years. I used to run whilst I used to do boxing as a kid, but it was the bit that I'd never used to like. She goes, "Just give it a go. Try getting back into running." And I started to run, and it made me feel closer to my sister, because I'd be running sometimes and it felt like my sister was running next to me. And it gave me that time just to take time on myself and process things and think. It when whilst running, my mind was just so clear, and I could just take things in and grieve. So it really helped me, and I started to do something called Park Run, which is done nationally and internationally as well, where you'll turn up on a Saturday and you'll run together, all run by volunteers, 9 o'clock every Saturday. Where it doesn't matter where you are, and it's a community, and people come and do a park run that have gone through so much. That, they might be overcoming cancer, they might have had grief in their own lives. There's some kind of pain that's brought them there, and you'll have a lot of conversations with a lot of different people. And there's like 300-400 people turn up sometimes, and it really helped. And my mom came with me as well, and she got into running together. It just helped us grieve, and it wasn't that kind of got me into a good position. I was mentally getting healthier. I was able to handle things a bit better. The running was really helping, and then I thought, okay, I want to make my sister proud. And the first thing I want to do is I want to share a story. I want to share her message. The last meeting with my sister, I believe that we had one of the best conversations we ever had. And she told me of all the things that she wanted to do with her life. She knew that she'd been working too hard, and her way of coping with her past was often to just work, to clear her mind, and really focus on work. And she did well. She did amazingly well within her organisation. But her illness had slowed her down the weeks before, and she thought, okay, I want to slow down a little bit. I'm going to cut down to 4 days a week maybe, and I'm going to spend time with my daughters. I'm going to travel. I'm going to do what I can to make this world a better place. And she was never able to do that, having passed away just a couple of weeks later. And the message I got from that was, live your life to the max now. And it's like looking at life through the lens of death. And that was the message I got. And if we look at our life now and say, yeah, at some point we will leave this world, and we all will, and we don't know when that time is going to come. What do we want to
Sure.
achieve now? What can we do now that will make that difference? Let's not wait. Let's do it now. And that's the message I got from my sister, and that's the message I wanted to share with the world. And I joined something called Toastmasters, which is an international speaking organization, and that's where I met Tunde. And he saw me walk into Toastmasters, and he saw where I was at that time. I had my eyes to the ground. I didn't talk to people. My heart would beat even if I was asked a warm-up question. And I did a speech at Toastmasters. The first ever speech I did there was called "Waking Up from." It was called "Life Through the Lens of Death." And I tried to do a speech, talk about my sister's message to me, and it didn't work. I didn't connect with the audience. They didn't really feel my passion. They didn't really feel the message that I was delivering for my sister, and I felt disappointed in myself. But I thought, I'm going to try. I'm going to keep trying, and I'm going to improve. And that's what I did. I did the speech over and over again, practiced, took lots of skills from various different people, and eventually learned how to tell that story in a way that really helped people picture how I felt in their minds, feel my pain, feel what I went through. And that's when I started to connect with people, and it changed everything. What then I went on to enter the international speaking competition for Toastmasters, won at club level, won at area level, went all the way to the finals, actually came second for the whole of the UK and Ireland. And it was on the 24th of May 2020, which would have been my sister's 43rd birthday. It fell on the same day, and it just felt that it was meant to be. And it was the final piece of the jigsaw. I now knew how to fulfill my purpose. I knew what my purpose was, but I now knew how to fulfill that. I was going to go out and help young people physically, mentally, and socially, because that's my journey of the last few years, and it's helped me. And it took me from a point where I was at the lowest I'd ever been to where I was feeling in a good position, and one of the best positions I've felt for many years. And that's when I thought, okay, I'm going to set up Magical Mind Coaching, and I'm going to help young people. And I did it all for free. I didn't even have an organization for the first year. I'd never worked with kids. I'd come from a place where I'd worked in the corporate world for many years, never worked with a young person, and thought, okay, I'm just going to go into my daughter's school. I'm going to ask the head teacher, can I come in and do a routine with children and help them physically, mentally, and socially? It's all for free. I just want to help. And he let me help him. And that was December 2019, I think, just before the COVID. So I just got going basically, and then we hit March 2020, went into
Can I
lockdown.
check, Jin? Sorry. So then you did it for free for 1 year. I mean, were you working at the time? How did you? Because a lot of us we find things that we're passionate about, but if it's not bringing in money, how do you sustain it? So I'm just curious that you did that for free for 1 year. Um, what kept you going? Can you just share with us, please?
Yeah, I was quite fortunate in a way because I was working for Empower for 14 years, and I got made redundant. And this was a couple of years before I lost my sister. And I got into property. I bought a couple of properties using all my redundancy money in Liverpool and started doing that journey, because I always felt that home never felt like home. And I wanted to always get into property because I felt that I can create houses for people that they will feel like is home. And I thought that was my purpose initially. But you can't make a home by a house is not a home. Your home becomes when a family are close and connected, and that's something that building houses and renting houses was not doing it for me. But it worked out. Everything worked out as it should have done because I had that rental income coming through that allowed me to work for free for a little bit. My wife had a good position, and she could see the passion and what I wanted to do, and she fully believed in me. And she says, "You go for it, just do it, and I'll support you." And you've got the rental income coming through as well, so we can do it together. And she was really behind me, and she has been ever since I started. And she's always supported me, and even sometimes where I've had that self doubt, and sometimes I've had those limiting beliefs and self sabotage myself, where I think, is it going to work? Can I turn this into something that, yeah, I can pay myself as a coach, but also run free classes for young people in deprived areas? And yeah, that first year was difficult, very difficult. Even before that, like I said, I was running free classes, and then we hit COVID and went to lockdown, so I could no longer do in-person classes. So I went on to do kind of online classes, all for free, and it took off. I was doing classes in India, Nepal, Nigeria, across the US, UK, Europe, and people just taking these free classes of me, and I was learning my skill. I think you have to put in a certain amount of coaching hours before you begin to become a great coach, and I was getting those coaching hours in, and I wasn't perfect, and that's why I always say to a lot of people starting a new business, don't wait to become perfect. Just start and work to become perfect later. And you'll always want to change, you always want to adapt. I went in that first year and I was creating the material, I was learning as I was going along, I was running classes, and I was just getting my coaching hours in there. And I think you have to get those coaching hours in.
Wow. I think from what you said, I've kind of like picked up three things. The first, which is the last thing you said, is you should not wait to become perfect before you start, which is a flaw that many of us have. We want to be sure that we've got it all sorted before we start. But like you said, you're putting in all those hours and you become better as you do it. I think it was Jim Rohn that said that the first time. Jim Rohn, for those of you who do not know, is a world renowned, he's not alive anymore, but he's a world renowned public development, personal development speaker or public speaker. He said the first time he got up, his mind sat back down, but he stayed there anyway, and he did it. And just like you said, he kept going, even though you're not getting any money from it. That was the first thing. And then the second thing, you mentioned that your wife believed and supported the vision. That's something else that we also need to understand. When you want to do something you're passionate about, find people that believe and that believe in your vision as well and that would support you, because there'll be times when you feel like you can't go on, and it's the support, it's the encouragement that you get from those people that will keep you going. And the third thing, which many people seem to downplay, is that you also, even though you're doing it for free for 1 year, you had an alternate source of income. And that's one thing that many people do not take account of. They feel that, oh, if I'm passionate about something, nothing in the world will stop me. But if there are no funds to keep you going, you might just burn out quicker than you should do. And I like the fact that you shared that you had other things that was bringing in income during that 1 year when you were just starting. I have a video. I hope it plays because the internet is really messing up from my end, and I really apologize. If it does, well, this is a video from which is a testimonial from one of your students. I'll give you a few seconds if it doesn't work. Okay, I think it's going to play. It's trying to decide whether it wants to play. So I just got this off your website. Um,
As once I had to do a speech for my business lesson, but we were only given 10 minutes to prepare this instantly. But I tried to remember what we had learnt throughout this course. I then ended up doing the longest speech out of everybody, which made me happy and proud. Improvement in my self-esteem.
Apologies for the poor technical output there. So it was a video from one of your students, and she was saying how the course had helped her, how it helped her to present a business course, how it helped her, even though she had a short time frame. And that's another thing that I just wanted to point out, that sometimes you might not seem to get monetary compensation from what you're passionate about at the start, but things like this are things that could keep you going as well. Like when I watched that, I was a bit teary eyed, and I saw like four testimonials of four young people and how the things that you had taught them had changed their lives. And one of them even said that he had gone on to teach it to his siblings as well. So these are things that we need to consider when we're looking for things that we're passionate about. For the sake of time, I'm going to ask you a few more questions. And one question I'm about to ask you is, tell us about some of your most productive habits. Because you teach children a lot of things, but I'm sure before you can, someone says that you can't give what you don't have. Before you can teach children some of these habits, you must have practiced them and internalized them yourself. So tell us about some of your most productive habits.
Yeah, so I say you have to practice what you preach, and especially as a coach, and there are people, coaches out there that don't always practice what they preach, and I think it's really important. So I do all of those things. Physically, I try to run at least 3 times a week, 5 kilometer runs, which is suited to me. I'm always trying to compete against myself and always trying to get a better time. So when I started running park runs right at the beginning, I was probably running 30 minutes, and now my fastest personal B 5K is 20 minutes and 40 seconds. And I'm always aiming to trying to get under that as well. As I get older, it gets tougher, but I'm always trying to get under 20 minutes now. I want to get under 20 minutes of my park run, and it's always pushing myself and competing against myself. In terms of mental fitness, it's always reading. I do a lot of reading. I journal, I meditate, I repeat my passion and my vision repeatedly to myself. Now that I want to help young people become their best version of themselves, and every child should have that same opportunity. And I just make sure that I try to, again, like, surround yourself with positive people, people that believe in you, and people that are always positive and can see the vision. And even then, when you sometimes have those down periods, they believe in you and say you can do this and you will do this, and it's gonna be amazing. So having those people around is really important. And then the social skills, always trying to develop my social skills. I do a lot of reading. I read a lot of books around social skills and public speaking. I've attended Toastmasters for over 4 years. I do a lot of public speaking where I can, events, going to schools, and I'll do free speeches on things like making positive choices and always practice that skill myself. So even when I'm teaching young people and I'm standing on stage, I'm always thinking to myself, how can I improve? How can I deliver my speech more accurately and really share what I'm trying to get across to young people, and how can I change things? How can I make it more engaging? So always working on those three things, always. And I think by doing that, it's making me become a better coach. And each time I do coach students, like I say, I always kind of give myself an evaluation afterwards and say, okay, what worked well, what didn't work well, what can I do to improve? And I think that's really important in anything that you do.
Well, you talked about, I mean, you did talk about running. We saw a picture of you running in the park there, and you talked about reading books. You talked about speaking. I just out of curiosity, because this was one of your posts. I suppose this are some of your books that have changed your life, because it was one of your posts. Just have you got any favorite books out of all the books there? Or do you just want to talk about one of them that's kind of changed your life?
Yeah, I think there's quite a few books in there that have really changed my life. Alchemist, which I've spoke a little bit already. That's a book that I read to my sister while she's in induced coma, and that has massively changed my life. The other book there is the 5 second rule, and I was reading that book prior to going to see my sister. So I knew she had an illness. At the time, it wasn't said that it's going to be life threatening. She said that she would have difficulties throughout her life, where she would have times where she would be quite ill, because it's not autoimmune disease. Your body attacks itself. Sometimes you should be able to control that through medication. Sometimes it might flare up, and that's the belief. That's what they believed her life would be. But unfortunately, with her case, with her autoimmune disease, it kind of started affecting the lungs, which is very rare. I was told that there's not been a case in the UK before. So it's kind of, again, another reason why I was so annoyed and angry that I thought things are so unfair. But that 5 second rule book really helped me. I was listening to the audiobook version, and in that book, she talks about counting backwards: 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, taking a little step forward, and that really helping you overcome any fear. And she talks about she wanted to go and see her father. Her father had an illness, and she wanted to ask her father, "Are you afraid?" But at the same time, she thought, "Is that a silly question? Of course he's afraid. Why would I ask him, 'Are you afraid?' Because that's just going to upset him." But she went to see her father anyway, and she counted back 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and asked her father, "Are you afraid?" And her father and her had the best conversation that she could have ever imagined. I found myself that same weekend going to see my sister. I was sitting on the floor, and she was sitting in a rocking chair. I remember it like it was yesterday. And I sat down and I looked at her and I thought, I want to ask her, "Are you afraid?" And in fact, again, those thoughts came into my head. That's a silly question. Of course she's afraid. Of course she's upset. Why would you ask that question? And I just did it. I thought 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Are you afraid? And the response she gave me is what drove me to do that speech about, because that was the conversation we had. She talked about amazing things. She talked about how she was appreciating every single thing now. She was looking at the trees. She was feeling the sun shining through the window on her. She saw a hedgehog walk across the garden the other day, and she described this hedgehog perfectly, every single thing to the detail. And then she also talked about her passions and what she wanted to do with her life, and how, yes, she knew she was going to be ill, but she would live her life to the max. Had I not asked that question, are you afraid? I would have never had that conversation with her. Uh, and another thing that she says in that book, never leave anything important unsaid. And I'm glad that I did ask her, "Are you afraid?" Because I wouldn't have had that final conversation with her. So yeah, I think
Wow.
books come into your life. It's amazing how books can come into your life at the right points, and you'll be reading something, and then you kind of action it a few weeks later, and they just seem to come to you at the right time when you need them. And I think books are one of my biggest mentors in many ways.
And is there any of those books or any book that you recommend for young people that want to improve their communication skills? because you work with young people that kind of like want to improve their communication skills, their confidence. Is there any book that you recommend for young people within that age group?
Yeah, so there's a couple here. So I'd say that Speak So Your Audience Will Listen. It's a great book on talking, so really capturing people's attention. And a book here which I read, you can see that TEDx Talk, TED book, Talk
Like Ted.
TED, yeah, another great book that really helped me. But they'll teach you the fundamentals. But I'd always advise trying to join a speaking club, maybe a drama classes, things like that, where you have to stand on stage, where you have to talk in front of people. That's what's going to help you the most. And these will teach you the basics and teach you some core skills that you can implement later. But get into a speaking club, get into drama, anything like that. That's going to really help your confidence. My two daughters attend something called Stage Coach, which is a drama school. That really helps them, and they have to go on stage. I always support them doing public speaking as well and teach them the core things right from there. And any speaking club really helps people. It's going to help you overcome that fear. Let's say one of the biggest fears adults have is public speaking. If you can help a young person overcome that at a young age, imagine how it'll change their life. Imagine how they'll be in interviews. Imagine how they'll be in meetings. Imagine their presentation skills. These are things that adults struggle with, and you'll come out of university and you'll be asked to do your first interview or you're asked to do your first presentation in front of a team, and you are scared, you're terrified, and you're shaking. And imagine if you didn't have none of that at a young age. You're like, yep, I've been doing public speaking for 10 years, 15 years, and here I am, and presentations are no problem. What advantages that give that young person compared to people that have never done a speech or never done a presentation or never attended an interview? And I say one of the top skills that organisations are looking for now and struggling with is communication skills. And I think it's so important. You meet people. I worked in the corporate sector for a long time, and I met intelligent people that had poor communication skills, that didn't really get to their best version, or that get to the point where they could really do amazing things because they struggled sharing their ideas and thoughts. I also met people that may not have been as intelligent, but had great communication skills. They did amazingly well. Then you meet the people that are intelligent and have good communication skills, and they put it together, and they know how to make teams work. They know how to get the best out of people. Those are the ones that do amazingly well. And I think that's why communication skills are so important, so fundamental.
Yeah, I agree with you, and kind of like ties in what I was trying to talk about at the beginning of the show as well. That some of these soft skills are the things that make a difference. It's quite dated now, but it's from LinkedIn, and I think they did a survey with nearly 300 hiring managers in the United States, and they said what soft skills were the ones that they were looking for that helped them to hire people over others. You can see at the very top of that list, although the other things like teamwork, organization, but at the very top of that list is communication, which shows how important communication is for not just kids, not just youth, but even for adults. And we need to find ways to improve that skill. Everyone needs to improve that skill of communication. So I'm just going to ask you, because I know that you having another session soon with the young kids. I'm just going to ask you to tell us about some of your biggest or your proudest achievements. I know you mentioned that you have the time that you came second in the whole of the United Kingdom in the public speaking contest. But is there anything else you want to share with us as some of your biggest or proudest moments or achievements?
Yes, my proudest moment first was becoming a dad. I've got two amazing girls, and that was one of the proudest moments for me. I always wanted to be a dad. I always wanted to make sure that I was the best dad I could be. So that was always important to me. Recently, over the last few years, since developing my communication skills and since developing a more mindset and being physically healthier, I've achieved some things that are beyond my dreams. So yes, came second in an international speaking competition. And then a year later, I also reached semi-finals in that same competition with a speech entitled "I Wish I Was a Bit Taller," and it's all about insecurities, and we all have insecurities. And mine, at a young age, was my height. But that's just one. A lot of people have insecurities, and it talked about that. Again, got to the semi-finals that year. Also, October last year, I did something that I truly thought that I'd never be able to do, and that was a TEDx talk. I'd seen TEDx talks a number of times, and I always thought, wow, those are amazing speakers. I wish I could do that. And actually put it on a vision board a few years ago, and it was been on my vision board for 2 years, and then I got the opportunity to actually do a TED talk, and it was the best feeling I've ever felt. Standing on stage, delivering a speech to 150 people in person. At that point, the largest group I'd spoken to was probably about 30. So I went from 30 to 150, and it was just amazing. The feeling I had when I left that stage, I can't explain. It was like I had electric running through my whole body, and my whole body was filled with energy. And the speech went well. I delivered to the best of my abilities, and yeah, it's something that I never thought I'd do. And in that same week, so it was a busy week. So on the Friday, I did my first theatre production. Did a play called Mr. Singh's Had Enough, which was in Birmingham, and I had to do that again. I think it was about 150 people. I was a lead role, playing Mr. Singh. I never acted in my life. The opportunity came along, and somebody said, "Would you like to do some acting? I can see you do some social media stuff and public speaking." And I just said yes. I said yes, just give it a go. And I loved it. It was a great experience. But that was on the Friday, so I had to remember all my words for that theatre production on the Friday, and then on the Saturday I had to remember everything for my TED talk. So it was a busy weekend, a lot of stress beforehand. And I was on holiday a few weeks before, and I was just sitting on a sunbed, going over my lines over and over and over again to make sure that I remembered everything correctly. But yeah, it was amazing week, amazing accomplishment, like things I would never believe I'd be able to do. Also, the organisation now, Magical Mind Coaching, it's really doing well. I've won some large grant applications from places like National Lottery, which have supported the idea. They love the concept of being able to help physically, mentally, and socially. And I'm beginning to win funding bids, which allow me to just run free classes in various areas. So I do various areas in Wolverhampton, and I've also gone back to Wednesbury. I was born in Wednesbury, went through a lot of my tough times in Wednesbury, and I always wanted to give back. So I run 2 classes in Wednesbury as well. And my goal now is to begin to train 2 more coaches who will be able to deliver programs in deprived areas as well. So it's going in the right direction. And yeah, it's often I sit back and I think, wow, this is beyond my dreams. And I never felt this would be something I'd be able to do. But it's just a matter of just working hard, following your passion, doing something that you enjoy, and just keep going. And eventually things begin to become a reality.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I love how you shared all the things that, I mean, definitely you have many more achievements, but yeah, first you started with becoming a father, and you showed a picture of your 2 lovely daughters. You talked about your Toastmasters competition experience, you talked about TEDx, and now the great work you're doing with Magical Mind Coaching. Someone once said that we have to live life looking forward, but life can only be truly understood by looking backwards. So I know, for example, after you did your TEDx speech that weekend, you had a TEDx speech, you had a theater play that you had to do. The emotions might still be high and all of that, but can you just tell me, because you also had it on your vision board as well, like at some point when all the emotions, all the highs were gone, and then you were there, maybe on your bed, just reflecting on how the person who was sitting at the end of the stairs, who could barely talk to someone, had done all of that, had done the TEDx speech, had done a theater play. I mean, when you were reflecting, what came to your mind? What emotions came to your mind? It'd be good to know.
Yeah, sometimes we do forget to reflect back and see how far you've come. And sometimes I'm guilty of that, where I'll forget. I'm so much about I can do better, I can improve, I can make this even more engaging. I sometimes forget to kind of think where I've come from and what I've achieved. And it does when you sit there and you think, okay, I was that young boy who had no confidence, had a lot going on, and now I'm doing this and I'm helping young people. It just sometimes, again, it just doesn't feel real. And sometimes you do have to kind of say to yourself, you are doing things that you never felt would be possible. And I'm not the greatest at giving myself a tap on the back and saying, well done. I'm more like, yeah, you can do better. And sometimes it is having those people around you, like say my wife, and saying, look what you've done, look what you've achieved. and keep going, because you are doing amazing things. And those people around me, when you hear young people especially come to me and say, yeah, you've changed my life, it's really helped. I was having difficulties with being bullied at school and various other things. Those are the times where I kind of really reflect and think, well, it really hits me then. And I think, well, these young people are benefiting from what I'm doing, and it's changing lives. And I think that's the point when I really reflect. Other than that, sometimes I do find it hard just to sit back sometimes and go, Jim, remember what you've done and where you've come from, and how shy you was, how nervous you was, and now you turn that around and you're using all your pain, all the skills that you've learned, everything that's helped you become a better version of yourself to help others. And I think, yeah, it does feel unreal. And like I say, those times when the young children tell me for themselves, or the parents come to me, is when it already feels real. Where they're like, wow, it is making a difference. It is working.
Okay, if you need someone to tell you, I'll tell you it is real. So every time you feel like it's not real, pinch yourself because it is real. And another thing that you shared, which is very important, is we need to celebrate small wins. Sometimes we just feel, oh, yeah, everyone is doing that, but yeah, we need to celebrate small wins. Sometimes we can be too harsh on ourselves. Something that someone else will do, and we'll congratulate them and we'll tell them you've done very well. But if we did the same thing, we don't seem to acknowledge ourselves. But we need to celebrate the small wins because it's one of the things that motivates us. So I'll give you a pat on the back as well. So well done, Jean, for all you're doing. You're making a difference in people's lives, and it's a great thing. Very quickly before we let you go, you've talked about limiting beliefs, and it's interesting that it seems to be around that age group of being an adolescent or young youth that those limiting beliefs come into our lives and they kind of stick with us for many people till the end of our lives. So, what exactly are they and what can we do about them?
I think, I say, we'll get told for our lives at some point that we can't do certain things, that maybe our dreams are too big, or that, if you want to be an astronaut and at a young age, you say you want to be an astronaut, you want to be an actor, or you want to be a footballer. Sometimes our parents may be trying to protect us sometimes, or those people want to protect us sometimes. And they think that it's such a hard area to get into that they might say, look, maybe that's not what you want to do. Maybe you want to do something else. Maybe do something else that may be easier to get into and they got more chance of doing. And sometimes that limiting beliefs, parents, they don't always do it to kind of put us down. But sometimes it comes out of protection. And over time, when we're told no, you can't, it's not possible, it begins to stick with us, and that begins to feed into our subconscious mind. So when we have to make a decision on anything, we'll go straight to subconscious mind quickly and to make a decision. I always see it like a library. So you've got subconscious mind like a library, and every single book in that library is your past. It's been written, and it's your reference point. And so if somebody asks you to do something, you'll quickly go to this library in your subconscious mind, pick the book of your past experience, and say, no, not possible. I can't do that. So the only way you can change that is you change your library. So basically, you have to start taking those books out and replacing them with new books. And those books are saying, yes, I can do that. Yes, it is possible. And then when it comes to making this decision and you're going back to that subconscious mind, that library in your mind, you're picking the right book and it's saying, yes, you've got this, you can do this, believe in yourself. And that's when you start changing things. Because a lot of people think that, the conscious mind makes a lot of your decisions. It's not, it's your subconscious mind. And that subconscious mind is a book of libraries and a book of memories, book of experiences. You need to change those experiences. You need to start recognizing thoughts. And this is what I tell the young people in my class. The first point is recognize that every single person self-talks. All of us self-talk. And we talk to ourselves more probably than we talk to other people. Sometimes those negative self-talk, those self-talks are negative. And we'll say things like, I can't, I'm not good enough. It was hard. Last time I tried, I failed. Failure seems a negative word, which is not. Failure is just an opportunity to learn, and we all fail, and we have to embrace failure, and that's how you move forward. And I think those kind of things, recognizing that self-talk, as soon as you recognize it, stop it and say, okay, change it to a positive. Each time you do that, eventually it becomes automated, and you reprogram the computer system in the mind, and you automatically think, okay, got a decision to make. Yes, I can do that. Same for me. I was given a call. Do you want to do a theatre production? Do you want to act in a play? The first thought that came into my head was, no, I've never acted in my life. I can't do a theatre production. But then I stopped that thought straight away and says, just say yes. What's the worst that can happen? Just go. And if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. If it does, then it's a great opportunity. And it's not good. It's not good to miss out on opportunity sometimes. Just say yes and just go for it. See how things go. And the first day I went there, I was handed a script and said, go for it. And I wasn't very good, but I practiced and worked hard. And next thing you know, I'm in a theatre production. So yeah, I think it's even me, sometimes I have to stop that negative thought. But it's the first thing is just recognizing it. Once you recognize it, you then only then can you change it. And the more you change it, eventually you'll just start thinking positively naturally.
Wow, thank you. I think that kind of answers the next question, which I was going to ask you, that what advice would you give young people? But I think it kind of sums it up. For the sake of time, you said that we should actually replace our limiting beliefs with empowering beliefs. And I love the way how you kind of use the library to illustrate it. So you have to take out every file, every disk that people have put into our subconscious mind over our childhood period or our teenage period, that you can't do this, you're not good enough, you don't know enough people, and then replace them with empowering beliefs. And just like you said, also grab the opportunities, seize the opportunities that come your way. There was a story that I once heard somewhere, I think it kind of succinctly illustrates it. It was about a story of a boy that was fishing, and he kept catching good fish, big enough fish, and he was throwing them back in the water. And then an elder fisherman came around him and said, little boy, why are you throwing all these big fishes back in the water? And the small boy said, well, because my frying pan is too small. And it kind of ties in with what happens in the world today. We get a lot of opportunities and we say, oh no, that's too big for me, and we throw the opportunity away. But instead of throwing the fish back in the water, why not think about buying a bigger frying pan? And I think I kind of agree with what you shared today. So for those that want to find out more about Jin's work, I'll let Jin tell you how you can connect to him, although it's actually there as well. Um, Jin, how can we connect with you if we need to?
Yeah, so I'm on social media. So Facebook, if you just have Magical Mind Coaching, you'll find me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and some TikTok videos as well that I do. I've also got a website, which is there, www.mmcoach.co.uk. If you go on there, there's free content for young people on things like how to have conversations, how to think win-win, how to prioritize, how to understand money, expenses, things that I sometimes feel that aren't taught in schools that much, and that really help people. And it's all free. As I said, there's all free content on there that you can access as well. And again, reach out to me if you want to, if you want any support, any advice. If you're a young person struggling in any way, again, I'm always happy to give free advice and talk to you about my personal experiences and what I've done to help a lot of young people. So I'm getting a lot of young people now coming to me, or parents coming to me saying that their children are getting bullied, and various other things, social anxiety. And so those kind of things that I really think my program really helps with. If you live in Wolverhampton or Wednesbury, come to my free classes, send your child to my free classes. If not, then I've got the free content on there, and hopefully I'll have coaches trained over the years where I'll be able to get to more areas as well. So my classes will be covering more regions. So yeah, always happy to help, always happy to have a chat any way I can.
All right. Thank you so much, Jin. Thank you, everyone, for joining the Passionate Professional series. This is where we'll end the show for today. And just remember that this show is going to keep going on every last Sunday of the month. We'll get you close to passionate professionals from all walks of life. So last Sunday in the month of October, we'll meet again. But as I always like to say at the end of every session we have, till we meet again, make sure that you keep living with passion and purpose. We'll see you later. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.